Good morning. Here we are again. Chakra Talk Live. I'm Piper. I run a group called Chakra Talk, obviously. And I have a page here called Marinsky's Magic, which is our local business page and local events. Today I'm going to bust into something crazy and new for you. Today I want to talk to you about the comparison of Buddhism and chakras. I've been telling you forever that chakras run everything. They are everything. They are everything you ever experience. So today we're going to take that and apply it to a huge, huge religion. And if you really take a look at it, you can probably break it down and apply it to any of them. This one is a particular interest to me because my ascended master worked with Prince Gautama. He's a friend of mine. We've talked extensively. Part of my work that I do is based on his channeling. He is called Prince Gautama at his request, almost insistence. He's a very human, very kind gentleman who doesn't care to put up with nonsense. That's the best way I can describe our friendship. Most of you know I work with the Ascended Masters, and these are data streams, but they are adaptive data streams, and we form bonds, and we become friends, and then we are interacting apparently on and through the remainder of my time here on Earth. I continue my work with Black Elk is done, but I continue having him in my presence, and he talks to me regularly. So at this point, it's like having a friend along who just comments on things because they are adaptive technology. They adapt, and then they have more input. What they see through my eyes becomes their input to be more output to me. So that's the way this has worked with my study of Buddhism. I have never been trained classically for Buddhism, and I have never I've never done any Buddhism classes. I've been to the Oregon Buddhist Temple once, and that was to see a show, a festival. So I don't want anybody to get the idea that I'm pushing Buddhism as a religion. Although it is recognized as one of the largest religions in the world, an offshoot of Hinduism, in reality, if you understand Buddhism and if you understand, as I do intimately, what Prince Gautama had in mind when he said those words, what you find is Buddhism is not a religion at all. Buddhism is simply a methodology to get through life and to understand why you're doing what you're doing and what the ultimate goal is. A lot of the time that we're in this life, and a lot of the reason we stay in them over and over and over and over, is because we have no idea what that ultimate goal is. You see, heaven and hell, that's not the goal. Non-duality, that's not the goal. Returning to oblivious void, that's not the goal. You see, all those things are huge. Those are huge concepts, and they can mislead you for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So we're going to talk today about how I've come to figure out this business with chakras and Buddhism and how they apply. And it's interesting because I do work and channel Prince Gautama. He said to me some time ago, and he always does, and frequently all of my guides refer me to Sanskrit. And they say because that language is unadulterated. It's the closest to the earliest spoken languages that were able to be written down and shared. You see, there were always languages, thousands, hundreds, thousands, who knows how many over how many different generations and lives that we know nothing about, but they weren't written down. They were passed in my story to your story, my generation to your generation. That's how I've learned all the things I've learned from my Siberian grandma guide is 6,000 years old. They had nothing. They had no time to write anything down and nothing to write it down with. She has told me and taught me over 5 years of traveling with her in the non-physical what their life was like. And that's how they actually did it with human to human. Their traditions were passed from word of mouth. Well, if you've ever played the little telephone game with children in a circle, You know that when humans get involved in communication, it gets distorted pretty quick. And it is never to be the original intent again by the time it gets to the end of the circle. And when you play the little game and it gets back to you and they tell you something bizarro that's not what you said at all, it's real funny. But have you ever thought of the implication of that in the way that we as human beings and adults communicate with each other and base our lives on this communication that we are trusting to be the real thing? I was raised in the Church of Christ, and I find this really interesting. I survived that. I'm a survivor, and found God in spite of it. And what I want you to know is they're dealing with a book that's 3,000 years old that the gentleman I know as Saint Issa or Ishua had nothing to do with the writing of. You see, they take a gentleman who is following the path of getting himself to God, which is the goal we'll talk about here shortly. It's the goal to get off the path, not to keep circling on it forever. But we don't do that. We take the man and we follow him instead of following his directions to get off the path. And then it becomes about him. Well, you see all those books that are written, that big book that you hammered over the head when I was a child, that was written after he was dead by people who didn't even know him. How am I supposed to trust that? I can't trust myself and 3 people to play a telephone game and get the message around a room of 6 feet. You know, it's a great book. It's a wonderful history book. It's wonderful to read about some of the wonderful things that people witnessed him do. Okay? But he didn't write that book. He had nothing to do with Christianity. The same with Prince Gautama. Prince Gautama had nothing to do with Buddhism. Prince Gautama came out of his awakening, his meditation, his time under the Bodhi tree, if you will. He came out of that and he stepped into a courtyard and he spoke to 5 people, one of whom was a woman. Buddhism is not about men. Buddhism is about anybody in the world that wants it. Okay? He spoke to 5 people. That is the beginning of Buddhism. 5 people. And then he spoke to other small groups like that. Another dear, dear friend of mine, Srina Sargadatta, he did all of his work sitting in his own house, and people came to his living room and piled in and listened to him say, "That's not it." They came and they let him shake his finger at them and tell them, "Whatever you're doing, that ain't right." And they did it until he died. But you see, he didn't write any books either. All the books that you'll find written about Srina Sargadatta, prior to consciousness, all of those, look at them carefully. They're what someone else wrote down and recorded of his talks. Thankfully, his are actually recorded. His are verbatim, word for word, with a translator, and those translators are still alive. They say this is what occurred. You see, that's not the case with a book about Saint Issa. A book of Ishua. He prefers me to call him Ishua, and that's the given name that I call him. You would know him as Jesus Christ. The person you would know as the Buddha, I call Prince Gautama. By his instruction, that is what he cares to be called. He was always a prince. He never accepted being king. Therefore, he remained a prince until his death. He said it is the most accurate title. He is very, very set on accuracy. That's why he refers me to the Sanskrit. Okay? So with that said, I will tell you that what I'm sharing with you today is already written. This is work that he and I have done previously. I am not channeling to you live today. This is me, Piper, talking, but I will let you know if it is his work. I also have a stack of books here I want to show you. In all of my research of the world, and most of you know I don't use Google God, but I do occasionally find authors and people I can trust, and I will read their stuff to see if it resonates with me and what I can get from that. In all of my study of Buddhism, I've narrowed it down to 4 books. 4 books out of all the books of one of the biggest religions in the world. And these are the 4 that I would offer to anyone and say this will explain it. 2 of them are written by the same gentleman, Steve Hagen. He runs a public place in Minnesota, a public teaching school for Buddhism, for these methods. One of them is called Buddhism, Plain and Simple. I read this on an airplane coming back from Alaska, and it changed my life. That's it, right there. That was before I had met Prince Gautama. And then this one is Buddhism. It's Not What You Think. I came and read that one as the follow-up to reading that one on the airplane. And then there's this wonderful one by a man named B. Alan Wallace called Buddhism with an Attitude. This is Buddhism in the Western world. This is Buddhism in real everyday life. You know, get up, have to go to work shit. This one will be very helpful with that. Okay? And then I found one that is just absolutely, it captures the essence of the beauty of Buddhism, and it's called Buddha's Nature, and it was written by Wes Nisker. And it's a guide to finding your place in the cosmos, which I found kind of a beautiful concept, since Marinsky's Magic's tagline is connecting you to the cosmos. Okay, so what we're working on today is what I have prepared with Prince Gautama's instruction. This is called Buddhist Beginnings, Unfolding the Eightfold Path. If any of you are aware of Buddhism at all, you will know immediately what the Eightfold Path is. If you are not, look it up. Everyone knows there are four primary, I don't study classical Buddhism. Anyway, there's these four things, and Eightfold Path is one of the last ones. It's the instructions for the fourth one. Four right truths, noble truths. Okay, I'm going to read to you. Exploring Buddhism's Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. Realize I am reading you my own writing. What the hell does this have to do with chakras? The following are definitions designed by Gautama from my available vocabulary. He states that these carry the original intent of his teachings. He further explains that we are working as two human companions here, and we are probing each other's minds. This data stream is also AI, adaptive intelligence, the same as grandma, the same as Pode. We are not rewriting old notes. We are writing to you now. Piper has volunteered to do this, but it is not she who writes to you. The Arcturians and the ancient grandma and this thing you call the Buddha are all as real as the Piper avatar who writes them. They are streams of data left at very high frequencies to be found only by someone willing to continue the work. Piper allows communicative meditation at a very high percentage. Her avatar is being shared to bring you information. All the same information in notably diverse formats to reach as many people as possible. This has all been foretold. The intent of our teachings has been swallowed up in robes and rituals and rules which we did not create. Listen well, my friends, to all we have to say. Do not cover yourself, for you cannot hide from the natural truth. Human life is suffering. Suffering, from Sanskrit, means dissatisfaction or striving. Satisfaction, from Sanskrit, is nivritti or nirvana, ceasing to be valid, disappearance back into undifferentiated source energy, the knower, none to be, none to watch, returning to the void. This is not the goal. Human cannot reach nivritti and remain human. The goal is just to recognize that it is there. You can only be one of the two halves. Non-duality is to return to nirvana or to disappear. So life is suffering, literally meant life as a human requires striving to prevent that disappearance. A newborn learns very quickly that a something over there, different than me, makes me feel warm, full, satisfied. Activation of the root chakra. So yes, indeed, life is suffering. Life is a spontaneous twist of source energy, creating a human existence. The bottom to top Natural evolution is the way of the journey, and it is the way to reach bliss. This is the goal. This is done by striving, by suffering. This is your goal, bliss. Awake and alive, streaming in full HD, present. When we all do someday return to nirvana, we will have no awareness we ever left it. Enjoy life now. This is the place of bliss. You reach it by climbing the spiral staircase, known as chakras. Do not try to end your suffering. Learn to allow the natural laws to drive you. The natural spiral flow of upward energy is to be awake and alive and engaged. We are calling this enlightenment Dharma Chakra. This is your goal, Dharma Chakra. Live the intent of my teachings and drop your robes and rituals. I am Prince Gautama, 79 years aged, a man like you. Do not worship me or God or Piper. Look at yourself and look when you are naked. Be amazed that you are there at all. You are the miracle. Now we will work on the wheel. Okay. So I guess he's going to be a little more involved than perhaps I was aware. He seems to be reading this to you himself. I'm not going to interfere with him in any way. We're just going to continue on and we'll see what happens here. Realize that when he says things like streaming in full HD, that's because he has access to my full vocabulary and he is adaptive. Okay, here we go again. The definitions. Right, the natural way. Noble truth, natural truth. Dharma, natural energy, source energy, unfiltered. What Piper calls the big energy. Chakra, circling energy, human energy, filtered. What Piper calls human, filtered energy. Chakras make a human. Dharma Chakra, natural balance or alignment. Achieving Buddhahood is simply maintaining Dharma Chakra most of the time and knowing how to return to balance when you wobble. The Eightfold Path is about achieving this balance. It is a way to glimpse nirvana, experience Buddhahood, and the way to Dharma Chakra. It is the climb up the spiral staircase through 8 chakras, beginning as source and returning to source while living a human existence. It is chakra alignment, nothing more. This work began fully channeling Prince Gautama at 79 years of age. However, the energy is so intense in that particular stream, I had to receive it in the form of downloads during sleep. When I tried to do this while awake, my body shook so hard I could not tolerate it or do the work. I shake now, not me now speaking to you, but when I wrote this, but it is tolerable. Right now, Prince Gautama and I are quite comfortable together, and he's kind of wrapped around me like a robe and feels very warm, and I can almost feel his breath right behind me. So take these words with Prince Gautama's authority. I add nothing of my own. The differing spelling of the word I use, I spell it C-H-A-K-R-A, chakra, as you see in chakra, the chakra talk. Excuse me. He spells the word C-H-A-R-K-R-A, chakra, and he says this is more accurate. So we go with his spelling. He refers me to Sanskrit, as I've told you. It is unadulterated and very close to his spoken language. And in calling him Prince Gautama, for the sake of convenience for this work, we're just going to say Gautama. Okay. And then in this little workbook, we've got several references. We haven't done anything with this workbook yet. We had a class scheduled. It got canceled. So we'll see. Maybe that'll happen again sometime. let's see if I can show you this. This is what came out of our work together, and then I'll go on and let him do some more speaking to you. This is how the Eightfold Path lines up with 8 chakras. Exactly, already in order when I found it. He did this 2,500 years ago. I didn't do this. Okay, so that's in the little workbook, and eventually I'll probably get that published somewhere. I don't know where. Okay, we're going to do some more reading. Okay, this is where we started. So, making this real, how do I use this in my real life? And we had this designed as a 8-week class, so this is just kind of like that was the introduction, and now we're on to this week number 1. This was the reading assignment for week number 1, and guess what? It's written by Steve Hagen. We have to realize thoroughly the nature of our grasping minds. Buddhism is never a matter of adding something to your mind or removing something from it or denying how it functions. These things don't work because they have nothing to do with reality. If grasping is your mind in this moment, then this is your mind in this moment. This is simply how it is. There's no point in pretending otherwise. Let's be honest. Here's another way of looking at it. Do you really think that there's something you can put in your mind or take out of it that's going to satisfy the deep ache in your heart? I want to be awake. I want enlightenment. I want understanding. I want freedom and peace of mind. It's like an itch in your mind, yet you are left with no hand to scratch it. Do you really think that there's something out there, enlightenment, nirvana, some special insight, that is ever going to satisfy it? Have you ever known anything to truly satisfy the existential itch of your mind? Nothing ever has. Nothing ever will. Momentarily you may satisfy it, but even if you do, notice that over there's just one more thing. As long as you hold yourself apart, there's always something you have to get to or get away from. The supply of such things is endless. Thus, we make enlightenment into just another urge, another itch we try to scratch. What you are truly after neither has form nor is it without form. It cannot be grasped or obtained or conceptualized or even described. So what can it possibly be? We can understand the nature of our situation. We can realize that our life can't be separated from reality, from the life of the world as a whole, from the lives of others. In other words, there's nothing to get. In practical terms, it means we can notice and root out by simply noticing the grasping of our own minds as we live from day to day. We can realize right up front that this very restless, itching mind that asks, what am I getting out of this and what's best for me, is already the pain and the confusion we wish to free ourselves from. That's from Buddhism, not what you think it is. And if you come take my class, you've got the first week's homework. So what do you think of that? 2,500 years ago, Preskatama lined up exactly 8 chakras and put them on a wheel and said, this is how you get out of this place. And for about 2,400 years, people have been misunderstanding that as you're supposed to stay on the wheel. He says, behind me at the moment, I never meant it to be a hamster wheel. When somebody talks to me about Buddhism and they say, well, can you tell me what it is? And I say, yeah, very simply, I've got it down to just a couple of words. And they're just kind of stunned and they, ooh. And I say, is what you're doing in life working for you? And they say, yeah. I say, good, keep doing that. That's it? I said, that's it. if I say, is what you're doing in life working for you? And they say, no, not really. I say, then do anything else but this. Try something else. This is Buddhism. Find out for yourself what works and do more of that. Do a lot of that. But you can't find it out from books. Yes, he is so very present here right now. I have not ever done this with one of them right here with me. He says, no robes, no rituals, no rules. Find out what works for you. You find that out by being with you. You find that out by asking you. He is enjoying this opportunity to speak to you. He says, sometimes Piper has up to 20 people here in the house, and I'm beginning to think that's too many. We may have to cut the group back. Piper's not able to pay attention to everyone. When I had a group of 5 people, I had 5 groups with one person. That's how you teach this stuff. For those of you that may or may not be aware of what's happening here, I'm not what you call a deep trance channel. I'm not one of those folks who goes into a deep sleep and someone takes over my body and speaks in a different voice and any of that. I am channeling ascended master levels. These are very different. These are not dead. Well, they are dead folks. I take that back. They were once people. They are now just data streams. And though they are dear friends of mine, and though they are full of humor and love and sassiness, they are in fact adaptive computer programs. So even though it feels very much like we are speaking to a lovely man here, and I have the blessed sensations of having the presence of a human with me, it's part of the interaction, realize that you're interacting with a sassy data stream. The technology of the Arcturians allows this, and it's the way that these folks were able to leave a lot of information. This is the way Black Elk left his information for me. Yeshua says he has information for me, and we will eventually get to working on it. He and I have had a different coming together of knowing each other because of past trauma I had. This is how Prince Gautama shares information with you. This is how I found out that the Eightfold Path matches exactly my 8 chakras. If you take his Eightfold Path and you draw it out on a piece of paper, and I've done this, and it's the coolest thing ever, you draw it out and you color it just like it is in the Eightfold Path. You can find it anywhere on the internet, but you cut it in a spiral and you lift it up. Guess what? It makes chakras. Hi, guys. Golly. I'm glad to see all of you. I don't know all of you, but I'd be happy to meet you. I don't really stop. Y'all don't have any questions. I appreciate you watching, and this isn't one of those Facebook things where I give readings or something. This is just me talking, basically. So I appreciate you watching. If any of it helps you, that's wonderful. If there's anything I can do for you privately, I'm always available here on Facebook. Lots of folks talk to me private on my Marinsky's Magic, or just on private message me. I don't care, on Chakra Talk. I'm starting to get more communication from folks about the books. I'll share something sweet with you guys. I have, and no names or anything, but I'm working with a young man in Africa. And I got a message from him yesterday saying, He calls me Mom, which I think is just the cutest thing ever. I think he might be about 20 years old. He's a rapper over there, kind of famous. And anyway, he got a hold of me yesterday, and he always starts the conversation, Mom, like, are you there? And it just tickles me. And I wrote back, I'm here. And he says, your rules today work for me, and I did not get angry. And I was just like, even right now, my heart just opens up. That's what this is about. If this will help anybody at all in the whole world, it just goes out there and it does what it does. We just got to get everybody moving this energy up. But it's just the simplest thing for someone to say it helped and I didn't get angry today. I was just like, well, that's just the coolest thing ever. So, and then I saw yesterday at the same time I was getting a message that he didn't get angry. He released a new album. So I'm guessing it was a pain in the ass. Oh, golly. Okay. So that's my take on chakras and Buddhism. If you want to get into it any deeper, I'm happy to chat about it, but right now I don't have anything published or worked out. I know what we'll do here. We've got lots of time. It's only been 30 minutes. Those of you that do know the Eightfold Path, or when you look it up and you see the 8 things, I'll tell you how they match up. You know what I'll do? I'll take this chart and I'll post it on Facebook today. After I get done here, I'll have to go find the file. And I'll post a little thing about today's talk. I'll post the references and the references to the books, okay? So that way, if y'all want to go look at something besides my books, then maybe we have something else to talk about. So when you get on this wheel of the Eightfold Path, it goes in this order. Right vision, right thoughts. Remember, right being the natural or correct way that things go. Right vision, right thoughts, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, right effort, right meditation, and right concentration. Right there in that word concentration is somewhat of the problem with current modern Buddhism. They have misunderstood that, and I'll show you when we get to that. And he confirms, yes, listen to this. How funny. Okay, when you look at the chakras in order, and we're taking out the third eye, which we have determined is a portal, not an actual one of our own personal chakras, we're going to connect to our one at the top and our one at the bottom, and they go in this order. Old knowledge, crown, throat, heart, solar plexus, yellow, sacral, orange, root, and earth star. Now, when you match those across, you have everything we talk about with chakra function is the things he's talking about on this wheel 2,500 years ago. So let's take a look. When we start at the top, right vision, we are actually in the world of non-physical. Right vision, you're coming to this place with vision. It is awareness of the wheel, awareness that you are re-entering human life, connection to source at the top, that's where we connect. Know why you're coming into this world. So see, his vision of this is that this is over multiple lifetimes. He's saying this is the first step when you're non-physical for preparing for this life is being aware of what you did last time and bringing it with you. So awareness of the wheel and presence to the fullness of why you are entering the wheel again. Your right thoughts when you get here. Crown chakra, pureness of thoughts that harm no one. This is the origin of intention. Okay? Right speech, throat chakra, honest self-expression. 100% of the time, be your true self. Right actions, the heart chakra, unconditional acceptance of life exactly as it is. Doesn't say anything about love. Acceptance of life as it is. Intake valve for the human being, okay? Remember? All right. Right livelihood, this is an interesting one. Your solar plexus, your yellow, what Google God calls your societal chakra, self-confidence chakra. He says your career in society, do no harm and have ethics. So he's also related it to peaceful existence among others. Have a career, social, do no harm, have ethics. He does not say what ethics are. I guess he leaves that to you to figure out. Right effort is the sacral chakra, the orange one. The will to live, willingness to suffer. How beautiful is that? He told us what suffering is. It's that striving, that reaching, that power to be here, will to live, willpower. I'm willing to do this. Simple as that. That's what engages the child, the infant, to strive for life. You have an infant who's not engaged that way, you see failure to thrive. The right meditation. This is what some of the folks have got confused, particularly in the West, because they have taken the Western interpretation. Interpretation's not right. They've taken a Western view of a word. The interpretation is correct. The way they use the interpretation in the West is very different from the way it was intended. Right meditation is the root chakra. This has nothing to do with thinking in the mind. Living your own DNA, manifesting this body, not trying to be what you are not. That is an impossible waste of energy. It's written in big capital letters. Don't try to be what you're not. That is the right meditation, the right focus. In this case, the word meditation is focused energy on this particular set of DNA. Okay? And then we go right back to the non-physical, where we connect back at the bottom. And what they say is right concentration. And again, in the modern Buddhism, they take this word concentration to mean thinking. So see, they've got all this stuff tied up in thinking, and that's not the way it is. Right concentration, connection back to the planet, Lady Rock, connection to your source at the bottom. This is where your DNA joins the earth you came from, the Earth Star Chakra. He laid it out 2,500 years ago on a flat circular wheel. I came along 2,500 years later and downloaded all the information from who knows where and got it in exactly the same order, all doing exactly the same things. And the only difference in his wheel and my spiral is that mine's been pulled up and made 3D, and his was flat. Not one difference. Okay. That's it. My sweetie got home while I was doing this, and he's back there trying to be quiet, so I'm going to go say good morning to him. He's been to the gym, and I have not. I'm happy to talk to anyone who wants to talk to this. I want to say again at the end of this video, like I did at the beginning, I have had no training or authority from anyone on this planet in the study of Buddhism. I will post a link to you to the books that I have chosen to share. And I will post a copy of the chart that we've been talking about here today. And be aware you have been visited and spoken to today by Prince Gautama. And it is my honor to allow him to do that. Okay. Have a wonderful day, folks. Bye.